Vanakkam friends, this is ARRM Arun and I am President of the Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, SICCI. On behalf of SICCI, I take great pleasure in welcoming our esteemed guest for today, Mr. S. Theodore Bhaskaran, who's a multi-personality, I must say, who has played a major role across various sectors. He's an author, he's a wildlife conservationist, film historian, a Tamil enthusiast, and the former Chief Postmaster General of Tamil Nadu. Certainly a very exciting set of expertise he has, and we look forward to interacting with him in the course of today. Also, I take great pleasure in welcoming each one of you to today's SICCI 360 session 30. For those of you who are not familiar, SICCI has completed 113 years of service to government, industry, and society. During these years, we've conducted several programs of eminence, of importance to each one of our stakeholders. During each of our programs, we have found that our esteemed guest speakers address our audience, and their addresses are restricted to their areas of expertise and only about 20 to 25 minutes of their time. We, however, felt that our guests have much more to offer than just the area of expertise. We felt that our guests will be able to contribute more towards guiding the next generation, adding their value, their contribution to society, and also sharing their life's experiences for the benefit of our stakeholders at large. That's how we came up with the concept of SICCI 360. And as I said earlier, this is our session 30. We've completed 29 sessions already. Each session has been with a absolutely exciting speaker, and we're continuing that forth today with today's session as well with another of our exciting speakers. Next slide, please. As I was saying earlier, SICCI 360 has been a new foray for us. It is a monthly series, and it has been running continuously since October of 2020 when we started it. We oriented to be a lively discussion with our eminent guests. Each of our guests are experts in their fields, and they share with us their all-round paths to excellence. Before I continue with the rest of my slide, let me draw your attention to the names and numbers of two of our executives listed in the bottom of this slide. If any of you have any trouble reconnecting during the course of today's call, you can always call each of these executives, and they will be glad to assist you. Continuing with a few words about SICCI 360, we typically look for guests who have over 3 decades of experience in their respective industry as well as society contribution. This, of course, is in a political platform. As the name depicts, this provides a multidimensional perspective to each of our guests and their career path. The session format that we follow is very simple. It's a 5-pronged format. We first go through our guest expertise. We next talk about our guest organization and the role within the organization. Third, we talk about our guest's career path. Fourth, we speak about our guests' inputs for the next generation. And finally, we talk about our guests' inputs for society. We certainly encourage you, the audience, to participate along with us. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the online chat session, and our SICCI 360 team will be glad to moderate it and orient it towards being answered in the course of today's session. There are 2 guidelines that we follow, very simple guidelines as part of the SICCI 360 format. First of all, we want our guest to be at comfort at all times so that we can invite them back at any future time frame. And secondly, we would like you, the audience, to gain out of your participation. With that, I would now like to share a few words about our esteemed guest for today, Mr. Theodore Bhaskaran. As much as his name is very different, and we look forward to hearing from him, as I said earlier, he's a multidimensional personality, and we hope to cover his various facets of his career. He was born in 1940, and he completed his MA in history. He worked as a researcher in the Tamil Nadu State Archives for 2 years, and later joined the Indian Postal Service in 1964 as Divisional Superintendent of Trichy. He served as the Special Officer for War Efforts in Shillong during the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971. He published his first article on film in 1972 about Chidananda Dasgupta's documentary, The Dance of Shiva. He completed his film appreciation course in 1974 and has been a member of the advisory board of National Film Archives in Pune. In 1976, he joined the Calcutta Film Society, and the same year he presented his first research article titled Film Censorship as an Instrument for Political Control in British India in the Indian History Congress at Alikar. He has been a keen bird watcher and a naturalist. He has written Tamil books on nature and wildlife, several of them actually. He's also been, as I said earlier, the Chief Postmaster General of Tamil Nadu, and he has received several awards to his credit. Mr. Bhaskaran, we are very, very excited to have you with us today. Thank you very much. Vanakkam, and looking forward to today's discussion.
Thank you.
So, as I was saying, Mr. Bhaskaran, you've donned several hats. You have been a Chief Postmaster General of Tamil Nadu, and that actually makes me very energetic, because when I was young, I used to be an avid stamps collector, and I used to visit the Central Post Office in Chennai to be able to collect all the first release covers. In addition to that, you've been a film historian, a wildlife conservationist. Among these, which has been closest to your heart?
Difficult to say, because my primary work, that is being a civil servant, is what enabled me to be interested in other things. For instance, my job in the Indian Postal Service took me to different parts of India. So I was able to see and live in different parts of India, including 5 years in the Northeast. And that's when I used to go out and go into the wilderness, developed an interest in wildlife. So it's very difficult for him to say which is closest. But one thing was, I was very sure, even from the beginning, that I wanted to keep my mind active. That is, my first 2 years were at the Tamil Nadu archives, where I was engaged as a researcher, and that gave me an interest in research, and I wanted to keep this alive. Now, the challenges and stress of civil service is there, but this kind of an interest in other subjects acts as a stress buster. It's therapeutic to be interested in other things. Another thing you will notice, in the whole modernist of India, many civil servants have been interested in other fields and have made their name in that field. You know, it started during the British period itself and continues even now in different services. So all these interests of film history, wildlife, and also my own job has been close to my heart. When I look back on my years as civil servant, I look back with great satisfaction, because I did not have to do anything that I didn't like to do throughout my career. Civil service gives you that kind of freedom, and weekends are mine most of the time, except when there is a strike or a crisis. So I'm very thankful to civil service, because it enabled me to get interested in all these things. There, your time is not money, as it is for a different professional like a lawyer or a doctor, whatever. So you have your free time, you have your security, and you can pursue your interests. Thank you.
One of your books, The Message Bearers, is today a standard reference work when it comes to modern Southern Indian history. How did this book take shape?
You see, around about in the 10th year of my career, I saw an advertisement which said a scholarship will be given for 2 years. Civil servants can apply for it on any subject that they suggest, and the last drawn pay will be given as the scholarship. It was by the Council of Historical Research. And I thought it was a good opportunity to go back to research while keeping your job intact. But what subject do you take? You see, at that time, That's 1974-75. China had not been open for studies. Only India was open for studies by foreign scholars. So there were a lot of American and British scholars with much better resources in terms of finance and much better training in research methodology were operating in India. Therefore, I began to look for an area where these scholars are not operating. And cinema was there in front of me. Even by that time, cinema and politics has become a big deal in Tamil Nadu. Therefore, I suggested in my proposal to study the early years of Tamil cinema. The Message Bearers book deals with how cinema, drama, folk songs, and gramophone records were used by the nationalists during their struggle for freedom. And for this, I went for Tamil sources. Most of the history of South India, modern Tamil Nadu, is based on English sources. Even when they went to press, used press, it was the English press, which means it was unidimensional. They completely left off the Tamil sources. I'm from a village and I have studied in Tamil. Therefore, it was very easy for me to go to Tamil sources. And in my book, Message Bearers, I tell how drama and cinema were used by the freedom fighters. Now, the important point is that was the beginning of interaction between cinema and politics, between the world of entertainment and politics. This is the burden of that book.
You had also come up with another book, The Eye of the Serpent, and this happened to win the President's Gold Medal. What was the main thrust of this book?
After I did my Message Bearers, I found that there are so many books and articles on, say, Tamil literature, Tamil music, but nothing on Tamil cinema. If you want to study Tamil cinema, which is completely taken over the life of Tamils, there was no introduction book to that. Therefore, I wrote this book. But the basis of this book was the work I did for the Encyclopedia of Indian Cinema, edited by Ashish Rajadiksha. I collected 50 Tamil films, 30 directors, 10 songwriters, and put together as an introduction. Anyone who wants to study Tamil cinema can use this book, and it has been translated into Tamil. I must tell you about the title of the book. George Bernard Shaw was a theatre person and took a very dim view of cinema. So he called it holds people in thraldom like the eye of the serpent. So I picked up those words as the eye of the serpent, and it has come out in Tamil also with the title Pombinkan. I'm very pleased with that book.
Can you name some of your favorite films, Mr. Bhaskaran, and what do you think makes them stand out for you?
Sorry?
Can you name some of your favorite films and what?
Oh, my favorite films. Yeah. But before I answer your question, I must tell you, it's one thing to say I like this film, and totally another thing to say this is a good film. Okay, I may like a film for different reasons. Like the heroine may look like my childhood sweetheart, then I like that film. Or it may contain the political ideology to which I subscribe. Therefore, many reasons why you will like a film. Okay, having said that, One of the films that I like very much is Yere Podumpadu, which came out in 1953, and it was directed by one of the great directors of Tamil cinema, K. Ramnath. It was Victor Hugo's novel, La Miserable. It's a Tamil translation of that novel that was made into a film. And to a great extent, he stick to the ideology of the film. Victor Hugo's novel was in the background of French Revolution, and K. Ramnath makes it into the freedom struggle of India, becomes the background. Beautifully done, great film. Ramnath himself is a cinematographer, so it was done very well. Another film that I like very much is maybe I'll say 2 or 3 films. Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
A film called Aval Appadithan by Rudraya. The film was ahead of its time, and but it was very well done. It's become a milestone film. Recent films I like Maman very much for its ideology and also for the way it has been shown, and the Pariyerum Perumal. Recently, I saw one film called Tira Kadal, beautifully done. You see, the new young directors have got their teeth into the medium of cinema, and they are talking in a language that's very, very different from the earlier filmmakers. Jay Beam, for example, was one such film.
We've, as a society, we've been a movie crazed population for several decades, and even starting from maybe the 60s and 70s, or maybe even the 50s, we've been making a lot of movies in Tamil Nadu. And Tamil Nadu's movie industry has also been evolving with the time, and today it's among the world one of the most, that I would say, top 3 or 4 industries. What do you think has made us such movie lovers? That in turn has developed the industry further.
Yeah, in Tamil Nadu, we have come up with more than 6,500 films. And interesting thing is when the film industry began, which is 1912, the first studio was set up. 1916, sorry, 1916, the first studio was set up in Madras called the National Films. Since then, we have been making films. Right from the beginning, the exposure to films was highest in Tamil Nadu when compared to the whole of India. In other words, there were more Tamilians watching movies than any other language group. Plus, already there was a nexus, there was a connection between politics and cinema through the patriotic films like Tyagabhumi, Harijana Munnetram, Matrubhumi, number of films. And therefore, this continued, and films being, you don't have to have any special knowledge to watch films. So it became a very popular entertainment in Tamil Nadu. And after independence, the DMK came into films in a big way. And just as the Congress used, the DMK used films, and it became very, very popular. And its popularity continues through different media now.
Talking about wildlife, Mr. Bhaskaran, you have been writing about wildlife and its conservation for many years. One of your books, The Dance of the Saris, has been very well received. What drew you to this subject?
You see, I was born in a small village, and I studied there my school days. And in that, the village was surrounded by uh, bush country, thorny forest. And a river ran through the village, Amravati. So we used to, as kids, spend most of our time outdoors in the river, in the forest, uh, swimming in the, uh, in the open wells. So we were constantly close to different creatures, birds, snakes, in the river, fish, turtle. Therefore, I had a connection with this right from the beginning. And when I went to college, Madras Christian College, and there I came across Professor Gift Ceremony, who was a great birder and a natural enthusiast. I used to go bird watching with him, and from bird watching, your area of interest widens. Bird watching, the habitat of birds, animals, butterflies, and a concern for environment. All the great environmentalists of India, they started their career, they started their interest as bird watchers. So this is how I got interested in that. And then when I was in 1969, I was in Trichy one early morning after having heard that there were boar-headed geese, migratory bird that comes to that lake. It's about 15 kilometers from Trichy. And I was sitting there in that fog-covered morning when the migratory birds came through the fog, making honking calls. It was mesmerizing experience, and it affected me deeply. So I came home and said, I must share this excitement with others. And I wrote a 600-word article and sent it to Hindu. And Hindu, within a week, sent me a postcard. I still have that card, which said, your article has been retained for publication. Then I realized, I can write. And I enjoy doing this. And I started writing. I wrote to begin with Hindu, and at that time, earlier, there used to be a magazine called Illustrated Weekly. I used to write in Illustrated Weekly and many other magazines. And this book, Dance of the Saras, is a collection of the articles that I wrote in various magazines.
I must say that all your book names are very, very interesting, Mr. Bhaskaran, including your first name.
Which one?
The names of your books, including
Thank you, sir.
including your first name, are all interesting.
Yeah.
I said.
My first name?
Yes.
Theodore.
Yes.
Okay, I must tell you, there is a little story there. My father was a hunter. His hobby was hunting. He was fond of hunting. And he admired Theodore Roosevelt very much, who was a big game hunter. Therefore, he gave me that name. Yeah.
Our next question is from the audience, Mr. Manikandan, who's chair of our Blue Economy Task Force. Mr. Manikandan, please go ahead. Bhavani, is Mr. Manikandan online?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Bhaskaran sir, thank you for sharing these anecdotes. It was actually mesmerizing. I've been taking some notes as we were speaking about it. You know that our wildlife is very unique. Cut across the states, we've got an amazingly unique wildlife. Do you have any anecdotes to share on that? And are we doing enough to conserve our wildlife?
Okay, there are two questions. First, of course, our wildlife is absolutely unique because there are three streams of wildlife in India. One is the Indo-Malay, and then the African, and then the Asian. All these three converge. For example, the frogmouth bird or the um, rhinoceros, that's from the east, and you have the lion from the west, and our own absolutely unique birds and animals like the blackbuck, which is typical of our country. But over the years, we have not saved them, not taken care of them. The worst thing happened during the British period in the name of hunting. You see, they came into India and saw this as a treasury without a god, a treasury without a watchman. So they went berserk. They came from a country where there is no wildlife, there is no big cat, there is no elephant, and this incredibly varied wildlife of India, and they were the masters at that time. They gave, they started shooting them, by the millions. And the Indian upper class, particularly the Rajas, they began to mimic them. They started their own hunting things. And, whenever a visitor came, they organized a tiger shoot like we organize a dinner. So Indian wildlife was completely decimated. But after independence also, we didn't realize what we have got. In the name of crop protection, weapon license was liberalized, and another wave of hunting went through. Many animals, including the tiger, was pushed to extinction. David Schaller, who rang the alarm bell in 1962 about our wildlife, said the decimation of Indian wildlife after independence was like the way the bison was killed in the United States. Millions of bison they were wiped out by shooting. So I don't think we took care of our wildlife till about 3 or 4 decades after independence. And the credit goes to Indira Gandhi to have woken up to this and brought out the 1972 Wildlife Protection Act. After that, we have created many sanctuaries. We have made the protection very strict, and we have brought a number of animals from the verge of extinction, like the rhinoceros, tiger, blackbuck. A number of creatures have been saved, but still some are going down. The recent status of Indian birds, you must be familiar with it. It says that in the last 30 years, listen to this, in the last 30 years, we have lost 60% of our birds. When I was a schoolboy, in the evening, I used to see the sky full of birds, going home to roost. Now there are no birds. If you see an occasionally black kite, you are lucky. The skies are empty. See, that's what happened to this absolutely unique Indian wildlife. That is why the wildlifers are crying. That's, they are mortified when they see wildlife forests are being cleared. In Andaman's forests are being cleared, where there is absolutely unique wildlife.
That's a very important point you've made, Mr. Bhaskar. And in fact, even if you look at it from a city standpoint, if each and every house can grow at least 1 or 2 trees, that's going to encourage birds to come back. And the houses can also have, bird feed available outside, which is easily available today, and also have water for these birds during the summer season. These are all good social measures that each house can actually follow, which will be a good example for the others. Moving on, Mr.
I have,
Bhaskaran,
sorry.
you've been honorary wildlife warden in Tamil Nadu, and you've also been trustee of the WWF for 2 terms, both significant governing bodies. How has your experience been in these bodies?
Mr. Arun, before I come to that, I think I left Mr. Manikandan's last question unanswered. Mr. Manikandan, can you please remind me what was your last question? Or have I answered your questions?
You have, sir. We did speak about the conservation aspect of it.
Okay, right. Okay, coming
sir.
back to this. Yeah. Coming back to this honorary wildlife warden. You see, one of the rules of 1972 Wildlife Protection Act is to create a wildlife warden for sanctuaries. Now, I must say, I was given the wildlife warden. I got the order from the government, from the forest department. But after that, nothing happened. So it was a namesake work that was given. Forest department did not keep in touch with me even during the my tenure as honorary wildlife warden. It was useful only when the press asked me some questions. I'll say I am an honorary wildlife warden and give the answer. By the way, the picture you see was taken in a wildlife sanctuary in Tanzania. That's my family with me.
I must correct the heading. The SICCI team should have called this as wildlife warden and not wild warden on the lighter side.
Yeah, actually, it's not in India, it's in Africa. Yeah.
Okay, so we now have another question from the audience. This is from a student, Vignesh K, who's doing his final year chemical engineering at SVC Chennai. Vignesh, if you're online, please go ahead.
So is it audible?
Yeah,
Yes, please
yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, you had worked as researcher in Tamil Nadu State Archives during your early career, right? So what was this research about, and did you enjoy this job? Yeah.
You see, during the British period, they had written for each district a book called the District Gazetteer. The District Gazetteer is an invaluable book of information relating to that district. It came out in 1914, 1920, and great stalwarts like from the ICS, like Stewart, they wrote the district gazetteers. Now, after India became independent, they thought that the gazetteers should be updated, and they created a central office in Delhi, and then in each state where there were archives, particularly Tamil Nadu archives, they started a unit to rewrite or revise these gazetteers. That is, we wrote the modern period. So I had done my history MA from Madras Christian College. Then I joined this gazetteer unit as a researcher. Now, I thoroughly enjoyed my work there. It was very exciting. I learned how to use governmental records to write history. I learned the nature of governmental records. And I was able to read some very rare books. And I was able to meet some very eminent scholars who came to research there. So my 2 years there was a memorable time. And when I was writing my book, The Message Bearers, I again got permission to work in the archives, and I was able to go there and look at the material relating to entertainment media, freedom struggle, censorship. It's an amazing treasure trove of records, and it has not been fully used. There are a lot of foreign scholars coming and using, but there are not many Indian, particularly from Tamil Nadu, not many are using that.
Has there been digitization done, Mr. Bhaskaran, of the archives?
Sorry?
Has there been digitization done of the archives?
Yeah, now they are doing that. Yeah. And
Okay.
also, they have provided many technological facilities for the researchers. It was not what it was in the 1970s.
Talking about book translations, you have been involved in also several book translations. One of them has been Ullas Karan's Way of the Tiger. What do you see as the problems in translation? Do you feel we have good dictionaries and instruments for translation?
Yeah. Now, translating from English to Tamil, translating from Tamil to English. See, I think a translator should have more expertise in the language into which he is translating rather than the original language. This is my experience. Now, when you translate Tamil to English, the problem is Tamil is a phonetic language in the sense we utter every word that is written. It's not so in English or French. And then we have, I'll give you an example. We say avan, our, adu. We can, for an individual, we can use these three. Ours is a hierarchical society. We say one fellow avan, somebody else is our, and even worse is adu. Adu vanduchu. You can't translate this into English. And also, many expressions, particularly metaphors, simile, you can't translate into English. I have also translated from Tamil to English. That's Raj Gautaman's book. It's titled The Dark Interiors. Now, Raj Gautaman writes a lot of double entendres. You can't translate them into English. For example, you say, oh, somebody died, and you say it contemptuously, Monday Potan. How will you translate in Tamil and how will you get the spirit of it? But the happy news is now we have quite a lot of instruments of translating into Tamil. There are manuals and there are dictionaries available online. And there are very good translators now in the field. So we have, the interesting thing is you have more and more Tamil books reaching the world audience. See, the usual Indian writers who write in English, the criticism is they write for the Western audience. And very often they are urban elites. So the work that is written in Indian languages, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, they are rooted in the soil. Because they are rooted in the soil, they become universal. Great example is Perumal Murugan's works. Perumal Murugan's book, Madhuru Bagan, was reviewed in New York Times, half a page, and it made people sit up and take notice. What's happening in Tamil literature? Now, his other book, Pyre, which was longlisted for Booker Prize, has been reviewed. So number of Tamil works are now reaching the rest of the world, not to talk about the Tamils who cannot read Tamil. This is a very big group. Not in America, in Madras. There are a lot of Tamils who cannot read Tamil. And my own children cannot read Tamil. They studied, because we were lived in the north, they studied in central school. And for them, Tamil literature is now available. The whole of Sangam literature has been translated and it's online. So it's a great, exciting world, the world of translation. And I personally, for me, it's a very exciting work. I learn both languages when I translate. I learn Tamil, I learn English.
How do you think the portrayal of wildlife and nature at large in Indian cinema has evolved over the years? And how do you think it can be used to inspire greater environmental awareness?
The representation has been miserable in cinema. I'm familiar with Tamil cinema, I'll talk about. They treated animals very cruelly in most of the films concerning Tamil cinema, concerning wildlife. In one film, Rajinikanth holds a leopard by the tail and swings, and elephants were made to do sit on a stool, cycle. It was a miserable scene till the Wildlife Act came and stopped it and said that you cannot harm wildlife. Or even when they show snakes, there are a number of snakes films, they will pin the mouth. Not only they will defang them, but they will also suture the mouth, which is very cruel. All that has stopped now. So now you may ask me, are they showing wildlife? In recent films, I think there has been a concern about wildlife. Kadasi Vivasai, they talk about peacocks. So Kumki also showed elephants and the connection between the elephant and human beings. But it's very difficult to depict wildlife in films. And I'm happy about that, because often wrong messages are given. For example, in one film, one fellow will say, I'm a very strong man. Don't try to mess up with me because I have eaten monitor lizard meat. Now, udumbu curry tindravanda, you see, it's just nothing to do with your strength. It's just another meat. So Tamil films have spread canards like this. They have harmed wildlife.
During your stint with the Indian Postal Service, Mr. Bhaskaran, you were responsible for the release of a set of 4 postage stamps, and this was on indigenous breeds of dogs. You're also an avid dog lover. Why do you think people prefer not to have native dogs as pets? Even in a hot place like Chennai, we find people having huskies as pets, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, you see, dog, my study shows that dog was never a pet in India. Dog was a work animal, like ox, horse, and elephant. It was used for hunting, guard, and guarding the farm and the sheep, and sometimes in war. It was used during the Polygar Wars, but not as a pet. So when did dog comes as a pet? It comes with the British. The British imported their dogs, and we wanted to ape the British. We wanted to mimic the British. Like we played golf, we borrowed cricket, we learned cricket, and we started rearing dogs. And we started rearing the dogs that the British had, not our own dogs. And our own breeds were completely neglected. A Frenchman who came to India last century recorded 50 distinct breeds, Indian breeds. Now, when I started documenting, I was able to document only about 28, 29 breeds. So Indian breeds were not taken care of. They were not considered a prestige symbol. And we began to get imported dogs. Husky is the worst example. But you see one thing, all our name, we give English names to dogs. Tiger, Jimmy, Caesar. It's a hangover from those days. So we neglected our Indian dogs. I learned about it in 1970. I write this in my book, the Book of Indian Dogs, how I got interested. It's a Rajapalayam. Then I reared a Rajapalayam. And my interest spread as I traveled around India. I photographed them. And I gave a proposal through the Madras Kennel Club for 10 breeds of dogs. And they chose 4, which are Himalayan sheepdogs, a Mudol, Rampur Hound, and Rajpalayam. So these 4 dogs were brought out as stamps. I must add one thing. I also was responsible for bringing out a set of 4 stamps of the Indian breed of cattle, which included Kangayam, Holikar, Sindhi, and Gir. They were also neglected. Even now they are neglected.
Our
So,
next
yeah,
question is from the audience, Mr. Bhaskaran. Another student, Miss Dhanushya, who's doing her second year ECE at SPC. Dhanushya, please go ahead. Bhavani, is Dhanushya online?
Yes, sir.
Dhanushya?
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
So my question is, are there any Tamil traditions or practices that you think particularly important to preserve and promote?
I didn't follow the question. Once again, please. Tamil traditions on what?
Yes, sir. Tamil traditions or practices that to be preserved or promoted?
I didn't get that word. Tamil
Tamil traditions or practices that you feel are
practices.
important to preserve and promote.
Oh, I mean, you can write many books on that topic to answer. Lots of traditions have to be respected. I'll just mention 1 or 2. For example, our celebration of rivers. Okay, we have Adipadanattu, and all the rivers are worshipped, and daughters are named after rivers. We have only one male river, that's Brahmaputra. All the other rivers are names of women. This is a great tradition. But while this is the great tradition, we also have the most polluted country in the river in the world, Ganga. And see what we have done to Kuvam. In the novels of the 19th century, early novels, I have read that people go and bathe in Kuvam and have rituals in Kuvam. In 100 years, it's gone. So at one point we have this tradition, and in another side we ruin them. And look at our gods and goddesses. Many of them are half animal and half human. Hanuman, Vinayagar, Narasimha Avatar, and all these show a very close link between the world of animals and us. You know, we are all part of one. We are all part of uh, one universe. You see, but we are all distanced from these ideologies. You know, so I think there are many such traditions. Even our stories, Puranas, and all many ideologies are encapsulated in it.
Very well said, Mr. Bhaskaran. I think that's something that we have to pay more attention to. And in that context, how do you think chambers like ours can meaningfully contribute to both wildlife conservation and to film history?
I think you are better. You are a better person to answer this than me. But I think what you can do is to tell the entrepreneurs to be concerned about environment, not for namesake, but really. For example, about 30 years back, there was a very famous matchbox company that was cutting trees in Andamans for producing matchbox. And they will plant some trees in Madras and put a notice there, planted by this company. You know, it is just doing something for the sake of, you can say it's tokenism, but actually they are destroying forest. I think it's it's a tightrope walking to carry on development in our traditional way and also save environment. And I vote for a simpler life than highly technical and developed life, which is destroyed our environment. Look what's happening in Andamans. You know, hectares and hectares of forests are being destroyed, and it's happening in India also for the sake of mining in Orissa, and also Kudrembuk had to be stopped halfway through. Many places, who cares for Great Indian Bustard or Black Buck, or it's the mineral that is more important. What money I get today is what I'm worried. That is the ideology of many technocrats. So you can try to change that ideology. Secondly, you could also institute grants for students to study wildlife. You know, in India, Indian people who are studying wildlife, many of them are in touch with me. They struggle to get some small grants. They don't get. I know one person who was studying a nocturnal animal. That person needed money, wearing a head torch. She didn't have money to buy batteries for the head torch. There was no grant. Eventually that person went and, did a PhD and succeeded and works as a professor now. But when they studied, they are hard pressed for money, and your organization can help in that. And also, when you speak in big platform, you can talk about climate change, which experts all over the world say is a greater danger than atomic holocaust. But we are only paying lip service to that. Same thing goes on in developing countries as in developed countries. So I think this is some of the things you can do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhaskaran, and we'll certainly take those inputs and see how to follow through. It brings us to the end of today's session, and I want to thank you very much for sharing your valuable thoughts with us across a wide set of areas. We certainly appreciate having you with us.
I really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you very much for
We have a
asking me.
second section of today's program, Mr. Bhaskaran, and that is called our rapid fire round, where I would like to shoot 5 words to you, and we would like to hear from you what is your first response to each of these 5 words. So with your permission, can we start on these?
Okay.
The first one is wildlife.
My passion.
The second one is films.
I love to watch good films.
The third word is conservation.
What India needs very much now and should pay more attention.
The fourth word is nature.
I'd like to be surrounded by it.
And the last word is Tamil.
What?
Tamil.
Oh, Tamil. I love Tamil, reading, writing, speaking, and my identity is Tamil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhaskaran, for that frank exposure. And we certainly were glad to have you with us. And as a continuation, we would like to send you your photograph so that you can autograph it and also affix today's date. And that will enable us to store it along with our memorabilia. We will have this sent to you at the earliest opportunity if you can kindly assist us with doing the needful. And also as a token of appreciation of having you with us for today's program, we would like to give you a memento, which is very new to SICCI, and the SICCI 360 team has come up with this. I'm sure you've heard of the Kanchi Kamakoti Child's Trust Hospital in Nongambakam in Chennai. And this hospital provides UMAN service to children from underprivileged families. So we have taken the liberty, Mr. Bhaskaran, to contribute in your name to the hospital to be able to take care of underprivileged child's medical expenditure. This is a certificate that we received from the hospital, and we will have this sent to you at the earliest opportunity as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhaskaran.
Thanks for this honor.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank the SICCI 360 team for putting together this program. It is because of this team's efforts that we've been able to complete 30 successful sessions so far. The chair of this committee is Mrs. Valli Arun, president of the Velingro Group and trustee of the Tamil Isai Sangam. The co-chair is Professor T. Murugavel, head of the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at SVCE Chennai. We would specifically like to thank Professor Murugavel for putting together today's program. He did quite a lot of the groundwork and also worked very closely with Mr. Theodore Bhaskaran. Mr. Gokul Santanam, Senior VP at Emphasis, is responsible for our marketing. Mr. Amalan Alavandar, Environment Consultant at the Asian Development Bank, is responsible for moderation of the online chat sessions. Ms. Vilasni M. Arun is a student of clinical psychology and brings in the student perspective. And the SICCI Secretariat is well represented by Mr. Vinod Solomon, Secretary, and Mrs. Bhavani Srinivasan, Assistant Secretary. That brings us to an end of today's program, ladies and gentlemen. We are very, very glad that you could join us today. We have 3 other sessions already planned, the next 3 sessions, and we will share this with you in the course of time. Again, they are with 3 eminent guests from across society. We are sure that you will also enjoy that session the same way you've enjoyed today and every other session that we've conducted so far. Thank you very much, and we look forward to your ongoing participation with us, wishing each of you safe times ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nandri, Vanakkam.
Thank you.